Hi, I'm Mary Greendale, and this is Just Thinking. Welcome to our annual series of interviews of candidates for local government offices. The town election is May 21st. We have contests for select board for an open seat. For planning board, we have an incumbent versus a challenger. And for school committee, we have 4 new candidates for 3 seats on the school committee. No incumbent chose to seek re-election to the school committee. I'm interviewing all these candidates. I have prepared questions specific to each board or committee. Each candidate will respond to the same questions for that office in their interview. This allows voters the chance to compare the candidates' approaches and thinking according to the issue. The interviews are done one at a time and will be posted when all the candidates for any office have been interviewed. My goal is to have the videos run 30 minutes, and they will be available on Holliston Hub HCAT's website, on Holliston Hub HCAT's YouTube channel, and on our Facebook page. Let's get started. So let me introduce you to a candidate for the planning board. This is James Reed, also known as Jim, and most commonly Jimmy. How are you, Jimmy?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. So we're going to start off by letting you just your 2-minute elevator pitch, as we would say. Tell me why you're running. And
I'm running for planning board because I want to be involved with my town in other ways. I feel like the planning board plays a critical part of the process in town here. There's a lot of issues that across their desk that I feel like I want my voice to be heard. I feel like I'm well connected with the town. I'm a lifelong Holliston resident. I'm sure I'll be here forever. I think I'm pretty in tune with what most people in town are looking for long-term. I'm a small business owner. It's important to me that we listen to applicants, respect applicants, be positive towards applicants, and try to find a common ground with them. So it works for everybody. That's really important to me.
Okay. I'm going to ask you just one quick,
Sure.
As a follow-up to that. Because the planning board is so guided by rules and laws and regulations, sometimes there is no middle ground.
Sure. I mean, you can use a certain amount of discretion. That's why they have individuals voting on it. That's why sometimes, you have one board member voting one way and you have another board member voting another way. So you look into the regulations, the laws, and you follow suit, right? But, there's a certain amount of area there where, you work together, make a decision as a whole, hopefully. But you have different board members with different perspectives, and that's really important to me. Again, for me, I support small business. I think that I've been an applicant before. I know what it's like to go in front of the boards, and there's a lot of people that go in front of these boards with hopes and dreams, and I know what it's like to be on the other side, and we need to work together, and I guess that's my slogan, is working together.
Okay.
But it's really true. We do need to work together. It's not one versus the other. It is really coming together and doing something that works for everybody when possible, right? There are certain scenarios I understand that are like really challenging, and you can't make everybody happy. I totally get that. You can't, you can't just say yes to everything. You can't say no to everything. But there is that in between where I feel like for me, I would really be eager to, again, try to make it work for everybody involved. Like, there's that certain amount of eagerness that's really important.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you're trying to replace an incumbent,
Yeah.
and are you running because you feel that there are things that the planning board is doing, or processes that they have, or otherwise that you'd like to, fix, or are you concerned with the decisions? What is it about that?
That's a good question. It's my favorite question. For me, it's bringing my perspective as a small business owner in Holliston that has been an applicant before. My perspective, I think, is sometimes different than somebody that is not doesn't meet that criteria. It's just that's how politics are sometimes, is the way you look at something. You know, we're all looking at the same thing, but if you've been kind of on the other side, you know, you're going to put a second thought, more thought process into saying, hey, let's try and work this out. Not, you know, this isn't working for me. I want to try and get things done. You know.
Okay, and so all right, you want to.
Yeah.
You want to introduce a perspective that you don't think is there at this point.
I think that we could use more of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Certainly, what do you think your skills are? You know, in doing that, in trying to bring people together. What do you think your skills are?
My skills. I mean, you know, it's character. You know, I'm pretty good at reading a room. I'm pretty in tune with my town, our town. And, you know, I feel like that's what we need. In terms of skill, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I think it's my perspective is the most important reason. You know, that's why I chose to get involved, was because I feel like, you know, it's what might complete the board. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So affordable housing is.
I'd like to think I have more skills than that, but.
Well, at another time in another place, we can probably talk about skills and what that would, how I, you know, would look at it. But at any rate, affordable housing is a major issue everywhere. That's certainly it's certainly an issue here. I think that we have to agree, or there's no other option, frankly. We're running out of land. We've got like 26 building lots or spaces left.
Yeah.
The only way to increase the amount of housing for anything is to increase the density.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then you've got sewers. You can't increase the density if you don't have some way to deal with the effluent from these extra buildings and so forth and so on. So what do you think your role is in educating the public about the realities of, we got no more land, we need sewers, how does that affect business? Yeah,
I mean, you know, this is evolving quickly with a lot of like the zoning stuff, with, you know, affordable housing, multi-unit housing, and so on and so forth. You know, again, for, you know, the people who I know that are younger than me, I've always tried to look out for them and say, you know, people that work for me who are typically younger than me, and I'd say, establish your credit, save money, build a nest egg, buy your first home, condo, you know, whatever it might be. Now I say, you know, like, hang on tight, you know, because there's very little housing. You see an open house, you get hundreds of people, you know, sometimes at these open houses, and, you know, all but one of them leaves without a house. So we have like a housing shortage, right? You know, I have some ideas on ways that we could improve the ability to build. You know, there's certainly still some developable land.
Give me one idea.
You know, just creating more housing. I mean, you could change the lot requirements, you know.
Lot sizes.
Lot sizes, setbacks. You know, setbacks for, you know, the certain zoning districts. You could, you know, I mean, I live in Mudville. I've lived downtown all my life. I live in the house I grew up in. I love village living. To me, just because you have a smaller lot doesn't, you know, I guess if you didn't like your neighbor, maybe that wouldn't be so positive. But for me, I'm a social person. I like the idea of more housing. I like development. I like, you know, we need more housing. You know, where are our children going? If they can't afford to live here, where are they going? They're
another
leaving. In another state. It's become far too expensive. We need more housing, 100%.
So what's your role?
And should explore sewers too. Absolutely. Again, right?
So
again.
what do you do? What is your actual role? Do you promote bylaws? Do you bring them forward yourself?
Sure.
Do you whatever? Okay,
Absolutely. I'm not opposed to that at all. There's no inventory. You know, I had a close friend of mine who used to do mortgages up here. He said, yeah, the market's great, but there's no inventory. So people are leaving the state. They're going west. They're going out of state. They can't be near their family. I mean, again, I'm a family person. You know, all my family, you know, they live in town or really close. And I'm glad that they're a part of my life, they're a part of my son's life. I think we need to keep people close together that want to stay here. There need to be more options. So yeah, I'd like to see some more, some more housing opportunities. We're going to have to, because it's coming.
Yeah, I think it's
As
here.
you know, yeah.
I think it's here.
Yeah. Well, with the state, it is.
I think that some of the issues that we see today, having spent the last couple of years writing the history of Holliston, I can see some points in time in which town meeting made the wrong decision.
Sure.
Okay. So one question that I'm putting to you is, so at planning board meetings, I have heard people say, well, we were here first. Whether it's they knew they were buying near an industrial park, or the industrial park knew that whatever the sides were, we were here first. How might that affect your thinking, your decision? Does it have an impact? What difference does that make?
Yeah. The whole "we were here first." I get it. Does it have some validity? Like, I get it, right? But the town is constantly evolving. It's constantly growing. We're not adding roads, right? In some ways, we're losing roads. I mean, I know that you're obviously referring to the Woodland Street Lowland situation, clearly. For me personally, I'm not entirely opposed to a closure on Lowland Street. I'm not entirely opposed to it, but to do it before the Woodland Street Bridge is fixed, I mean, I think that creates like, some, it presents so many problems with traffic flow, just typical traffic congestion. I mean, people relied on using Woodland Street all the time, and now obviously they're getting more traffic through Lowland Street. We got to, in my feeling is, we have to get the bridge fixed before we entertain the idea of, what to do where Lowland runs into Regal. Again, I'm not totally opposed to that. I mean, it has merit, definitely, but we have got to get the bridge fixed first before we even consider that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we're waiting on the state.
Yeah, of course. Things take time.
I
get it, but I'm not opposed to it.
Well, the other question about the conflicts or the differences of opinions, because they're not always conflicts, the difference of opinions between homeowners and businesses often, or most typically, comes down to the traffic, the noise, or the smells. I mean, it's not, nobody else really cares. Most of those businesses live in Lowland or whichever one park, and you don't even know they're there. It's just, so it comes down to just a few isolated cases that make everything really explosive.
Sure.
So what does it mean, though, for the planning board to be business friendly, and how does that affect decisions about how flexible you should be? Do you provide more flexibility because they are going to bring income to the town's budget? And what is the planning board's role in broadening that tax base?
I mean, it goes back to the reason I'm running. For me, I am personally. I think we're all business friendly on some scale. We use businesses every day, right? Whether it be whoever it may be, either a small business or a large business. We use large and small business every day. It doesn't matter how we feel about them, wanting to have them nearby. So for me, running for planning board, I feel like I'd be eager again to find common ground, really just go into it motivated, interested, and just wanting to work it out and try and make it work. And sometimes it doesn't. Like, I get that there's been some really hard applications that have come through. I know that, and I don't wish that on anybody, but it's what you also sign up for, and it's so for me, I guess I just want to try a little bit harder to make it work for everyone, and I don't honestly, I don't know that everybody goes into it feeling that way.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Being honest.
No, that's fine. I think that's what
Yeah.
you should be for your sake
Yeah.
and for everybody else's. Is there anything that you've seen over the period of time of paying attention to what's going on with them? Them meaning the planning board.
Sure.
Bylaw regulations, changes, things that you think need to be looked at?
Does anything jump out at me? I'd say probably not. I think they have an awesome group. you know, I love listening to them. You know, you got a few different backgrounds. You know, for me personally, I feel like I could be the missing piece. I also feel like if I was part of it, I feel like I'd really change the dynamic of the group, you know. I feel like I work well with others. You know, did that answer your question?
Okay, we will. That will say
You can do
it
a
does.
two-part question if you want.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So when you do have a situation where business wants one thing and residents want the other,
Yeah.
what do you see the role of the planning board in those situations? What do you see as the role of the planning board in those situations?
You know, you gotta weigh it. You gotta look at it like, hey, what are the pros? What are the cons? I mean, the town needs revenue, tax revenue, right? We need a high school. We need, you know, DPW. We need things, and you know, it's going to be either overrides or it's going to be, you know, more commercial tax revenue coming in. So, I think that. Your question again?
Basically, how do you balance the conflicts
Yeah.
between business and
Like
residents?
I get it when you have an applicant that comes in and you have a certain amount of trucking and you say, you know, how much trucking is acceptable? I mean, the reality is this town will get busier and busier. There will be more traffic, small and large. You know, everything's case by case. It's, you know, this town was built as they were horse and carriage paths, right? Like these weren't built for.
That's all of the state.
Yeah, the whole state, right?
Right.
But, you know, we work with it best we can. I mean, we're not Boston, right? I mean, we're a small town that's gotten real busy. I've seen it. I mean, I've been here, again, all my life. I've seen it. But, you know, trucks, you know, also make America go, too, in some ways, right? I mean, they deliver everything that you and I have. A truck got it there. So, like, you know, we need to be supportive in ways. But you know, where do you draw the line, right?
Well, I was going to say,
Yeah.
I will draw the line for you right now, and I will say that the federal regulations require that they stay on numbered highways. Okay, so
Sure.
the issue
And
is
Washington Street's
right. So
Yeah.
I grew up in a trucking company.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know.
So it's like, I sometimes, part of the problem is that technology has made it possible for drivers to find the back road ways of getting around things.
Yeah.
Okay, the locust streets and the south streets and
Yeah,
so forth.
yeah.
Okay, they were not intended
Sure,
for the
absolutely,
truck
yeah.
weight or the speed. Okay,
100%.
So all that, I don't care if the traffic on Washington Street is slow.
Sure.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But as a trucker, I know that's death.
Yeah.
I know that's death. The last thing a trucker wants is a slow route, something that's not going to take, that's going to cut into his time or her time, because now we have women drivers too.
Yeah.
So cutting into their time when they have to make a delivery or they're supposed to pick something up, they have to avoid that. That's
Yeah.
what they're paid to do. So it's trying to, you know, it's trying to understand both sides, but to
Yeah.
always remember that by law, they're supposed to be on the numbered highways.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, that's why we have road exclusions on, you know,
Yeah.
a whole lot, you know, a lot of the streets in town. We get the road exclusions now, and I get it. I totally get it. I've been on, you know, some of these streets, South Street.
I lived
you know,
on
and
South Street for 9 years. I mean, it's like terrifying
you
to
see
walk.
a tractor trailer come down there, and you're like, oh my goodness, you know, it definitely like, it's. So I get it, like, and I think it's been fairly effective. It's not perfect, right? I mean, you still got some people cutting through. Now, you know, did they know better and they just made a conscious decision to break the law? I don't know. But you continue to, you know, have enforcement. You know, and I think it's better than it was. It's unfortunately there is no perfectly safe road anywhere.
No.
But you do your best, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I guess that's when I look at it as the conflicts between neighbors and businesses.
Yeah.
I just want, my expectation of anybody who's in public office, in any office, is you abide by the rules that you've got. That's the bottom line. You cannot, in my mind, make adjustments that somehow break that rule. That
Yeah.
just is, so if,
I mean, I'd hope to think that a lot of these, you know, if they do go down these streets, I'd like to think it was by accident, you know? If there are people consciously just, you know, I think a traffic citation matters more to truck drivers than shaving off a minute or two. You know?
oh, they're so cheap. The
Yeah, I don't
citations are
know.
they're $25. They don't care.
But it's a moving violation on a CDL license. They would take that pretty seriously.
No wonder.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope so. I mean,
I would hope so too.
in there, you know. I
It's
don't
funny,
know.
coming out of Lowland Street one day, well, first of all, one day I was almost killed by a truck coming into Lowland Street, but that's a separate
Yeah.
point. But one day, just for fun, I followed a tractor trailer that was clearly, he came out of Lowland, he went down to Woodland Street, and he was set to turn left.
Yeah.
Okay? Clearly looking at his GPS, he discovered if he turned right and went to Locust Street, he'd be able to bypass the lights at Concord. And so I followed him, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
He went to Locust Street. Locust Street doesn't
But yeah, you got to wonder, you know, at that, when was that?
oh, last year sometime.
Oh, okay, so it was recent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know.
Yeah.
My
GPS. It's the GPS that
My
makes
first traffic accident when I was, you know, 17 years old. We're going back 25 years. I hate to say it, but it was coming out of Lowland, making a left. So, you know, there's something about that intersection that's a bit. It had nothing to do with the truck. It's
Yeah.
just, I don't know if it's line of sight or what it was, you know. But
I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, so accessory apartments. Right now, if you have a property, particularly downtown,
Yeah.
you know, and you attach something to it so that your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, or whatever can live with you, after they've moved on, you cannot rent that as a separate
Sure.
freestanding apartment.
Yeah.
There are those, including it was Governor Baker who proposed the idea of, all right, let's just say that accessory apartments are legal everywhere, and it doesn't have to be a family member.
Sure.
So how do you feel about that?
So you're talking about something was originally like an in-law, right?
Yep.
And has been morphed into.
Well, generally they aren't morphed now, but sometimes
Do you
they
think it's
have
being
been.
abused?
No, it's not that I think it's being abused. I don't think it's, what I think doesn't matter for the conversation just
Sure.
yet. But it is another way of
Yeah.
expanding housing it's expanding density of housing and creating rental housing, which is different from home ownership.
Yeah.
And it hits a population, sometimes it's either very old people, I'm looking for an apartment now,
Yeah.
okay, that kind of thing. Or it's for young people just trying to get started, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so the question is, am I opposed to?
Yeah, converting those from family to public rentals.
Something I haven't given a lot of thought to be honest with you. That's a new one for me. I don't know anybody that's in that situation. I mean, for me, myself, my mother lives in probably the smallest house in Holliston, but then I kind of wonder someday, you know, would she end up with me? And then, so am I entirely, I mean, what else would you then do with it is the question, right? So if you have an in-law addition, you know, to your home or cottage, a secondary, you know, whatever, and, you know, eventually, if they're not, you know, in the picture, like, what do you do with, you know, this wasted space that you've? Yeah, I'm not entirely opposed to that, you know.
Okay,
Yeah.
just it is something that's out
Yeah,
there.
it's a good question. I think the more housing, the better, right? And I think that's kind of a small part of the equation, but I'm not opposed to it.
It's actually the Housing Trust, Holliston Housing Trust, names it as being the #1 thing that we should do.
Sure.
Right? But
Yeah, I
that's-
like it. I think it's important to keep family close, you know. I'd hate to see, you know, my family have to move away because they can't afford any options, or you know, it's just we've made it. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge finding living. You know the situation in the state. So
Well, yeah.
I'm open to ideas.
All right, and so according to state statute, long-range planning is done by the planning board. But over the years, that has not been something that our planning board has really undertaken.
Yeah.
Okay, which has been a long time disappointment for me. Should the planning board be promoting discussions about long-range planning? And when I'm talking about long-range planning, I'm not just talking about the strategic plan that we've just recently done.
Sure.
I'm assuming you're familiar with the strategic.
A bit, yeah.
Okay, so that's an important piece, but it is not a master plan.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you think your role is, or how would you face your role on the planning board regarding master plans?
Master plans. I feel like things are going pretty good right now, to be honest with you. I feel like we stay the course, we adapt as issues come up. Housing is a huge part of the issue right now, and I know, I just have to take it as it comes, I guess.
Our master plan is 25, 27 years old. Okay,
Yeah.
so the things that we wanted Holliston to do and to have that were described in that master plan, where to put this and where to put that, and
Yeah.
how to deal with that, the issues of sewers, all of those kinds of things.
Yeah, we
Those
missed the boat on sewers.
Those are all in a master plan.
Sure.
So, they're the only place that you're ever going to get the opportunity as a community to say, how do we want to grow? What do we
Yeah.
want to be like in the future?
Yeah.
And that's, so
Sewer's important. Sewer's, a huge part of it.
it is a huge part of it.
It's little things. All the little things add up, right? We adapt as, issues. I feel like if there are issues, there are problems. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I love Holliston the way it is. And
It can't stay the way it is, though. Nothing stays the same.
Well, it's not to say that it can't. I mean, inevitably things do change, but
Right.
you take it as it comes, right?
No, if you plan for it, then when things start to change, you know exactly where you're going.
Sure.
If you say, I will use the whole 500 square foot whatever
Sure.
thing he was.
Yeah.
If we wanted that kind of business, we could have been out soliciting that kind of business. If we didn't want that kind of business, our master plan could say, this is what we don't want.
Yeah.
And then you don't ever face the situation.
I think we ended up limiting the size of buildings.
We
That's my
did change-
understanding after the fact, right?
After the fact.
Sure.
After
so
the fact
in terms
is
of like
not
being
planning.
kind of ahead of it, right?
Pre-planning, yeah,
Sure,
so
yeah.
proactive,
Yeah,
get in
sure,
front,
yeah.
not always catching up.
I mean, something eventually will be built in there.
That's a whole different issue.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. No, I'm a big proponent of long-range planning, and it is part of the charge and the responsibility for the planning board. There are other responsibilities that the planning board has not met. It has not yet created a stormwater management officer.
Yeah.
It hasn't
Yeah.
designated anybody. So there are some issues there. But at any rate, it's time now that if you want to try your 2-minute, if you have anything else you
geez.
wanted to say, or
All right.
based on what we've talked about
Am I
here.
looking at you? Am I looking
No,
over?
you can look at me. Talk to
I
me.
mean, like I said, I'm a lifelong Holliston resident. I've been involved with a number of different things in town over the years. That'd be too many different little things, which I feel like everybody should be, right? I mean, if you live in town, do something, be part of something, even if you think it's not a big deal. I mean, just the littlest things. I was emptying the rail trail dog waste bins
I
for
remember that, yeah.
8-9 years. I did it myself every week for twice a week, 3 times a week for 7-8 years. I didn't mind doing it. It was a small thing to do,
It was a big thing for the rail trail.
Yeah, it was, it's, again, I'm not like, it's not beneath me to like help out with little stuff like that. I worked with the Historical Society when I was a lot younger, little things, I didn't play a big role, and they're amazing, but little things, I coached, sports, I wish I had more time nowadays to be involved with, many different things, but I'm kind of, putting it all into this opportunity. I see this as an awesome opportunity. I feel like I'm really well connected with the town. I've seen a lot, I've heard a lot. I feel like I know what a lot of people want. When I vote for the best interest of the town, most of the town, what they want, taking everybody into consideration, but not just, but also taking the applicant into consideration too, and saying, how do we, I know working together, right? But like, how do we really make this work for everybody? I really, I couldn't, that's how I feel, and that's why I think people are going to vote for me.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
All right. Well, then, May 21st is the election.
Sure.
Okay, so
Yeah.
everybody needs to keep that in mind, May 21st. And just to remind you, it's Jimmy Reed for Planning Board.
Me.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
You've done your homework, so please remember to vote on May 21st. It's important for you, your family, and the community. Thank you.